Good morning. Good morning. Oh, there we go. To the journalists in the room or joining us by phone or video, I know that you know me, and I look forward to your questions, but I'd like to speak directly to Canadians for a moment first. I'm Erin O'Toole. As I said yesterday, you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot from me in the coming weeks. You'll also be hearing a lot of liberal spin about me. In fact, it's already started. Don't buy it. Here's all you need to know about me. I'm here to fight for you and your family. And Canada needs a fighter. Vous allez entendre le spin libéral ce mois. N'achetez pas ça.
Don't buy
Voici ce que vous...
Here is what you need to know about me.
Je suis ici
I am
pour me
here
battre
to
pour
fight
vous
for
et
you
votre
and your
famille.
family,
Et le Canada
and Canada
a besoin d'un
needs
fighter.
a fighter.
Because everything is not okay. From coast to coast to coast, Canadians are losing their jobs, their homes, and their hope. Even before the pandemic, half of Canadian families were just one surprise $200 expense away from not being able to pay their rent or their bills. Now millions of Canadians are barely getting by. I know how many of you are more concerned about the future than ever before. My family and I feel the same way. Parents are up late at night worrying about what might happen during a second wave of COVID-19 or when emergency programs end. My wife, Rebecca, and I understand the challenges, fears, and hopes of the middle class because we live them and we have our whole lives. We know what it is like to save for your first home, what it is like to save for things like childcare, tuition, and family vacations. We know what it is like to worry about our kids and their anxiousness about a return to school. Et Rebecca et moi
And Rebecca and I know how this pandemic has affected families,
Comment nos aînés
how
ont
our
souffert dans les
seniors have suffered
CHSLD.
in long-term care
Nous
facilities.
savons aussi l'espoir
We
que nos
also
soldats
know
ont
about the
apporté aux
hope that our
résidents.
soldiers brought to the
Leur
residents of those
bravoure
facilities,
quand ils
their
sont venus
bravery
aider.
when they
C'est
came
un
out to help.
bravoure qui
It is
m'inspire.
that bravery that
I was
inspires me.
raised in a General Motors middle-class family in a neighborhood where everyone looked out for one another. We were taught to have each other's backs and to help out. My entire life, I've tried to serve Canada and its people in uniform, as a volunteer, and as a member of Parliament. Toute ma vie, j'ai voulu servir
All my
le
life,
Canada
I've wanted to
et ses
serve
gens
Canada
en
and
uniforme,
Canadians,
comme
be it
un
in
bénévole
uniform,
et comme un
as a
député.
volunteer, and as an
Justin
MP.
Trudeau would rather play politics than do his job. Even now, with our country still in a crisis, he may be trying to trigger an early election. Because of that, I may soon be asking Canadians for the chance to serve as Prime Minister so we can get this country back on track. I love this country, and I'm very worried about the course we are on. Our country is currently facing the most serious economic challenge since the Great Depression. Capital and job opportunities have been leaving Canada, and the Liberals ran large deficits and debt before the COVID crisis led to record deficits and debt. And he's used the crisis as an excuse to help his friends, yet again. It's time to stop catering to insiders and special interests. It's time to put working Canadians first. Il est temps d'arrêter de
It
travailler
is time to
pour les
stop
connectés
catering
et
to
les groupes de
insiders and
pression.
special interests.
Il est temps de
It's
mettre
time
les
to
travailleurs
put working
canadiens
Canadians
en premier.
first.
As Prime Minister, I will lead a government that rebuilds our economy and creates long-term, good-paying jobs with ambitious national projects, infrastructure, and federal programs to make it easier for people to get ahead. We will trade freely with free nations and not spend our time chasing trade deals with predatory countries like Communist China. We can rebuild our great country while protecting Canadians from the ongoing threat of COVID-19. We can get Canadians back to work. We can be proud of the things we grow, build, and produce in Canada again. We can have a government that will keep us safe and ensure we are never ill-prepared again. In fact, we must. Nous pouvons avoir un gouvernement qui nous garde en
We
sécurité
can have
et
a
qui ne sera
government
pas
that keeps us
plus
safe and that will
jamais pris
never be
par
taken by
surprise.
surprise
En
again.
fait,
In fact, we must. To do that, we need a leader who has experience in the real world. Someone who isn't afraid of making difficult decisions.
A leader who cares more about keeping Canadians safe and united than about his personal image and the interests of insiders. We need a leader who puts Canadians first and who will stand up for Canada and our interests in a challenging world where we've lost the respect of our friends and allies. I said I would be ready on day one, and I was. On my first opportunity to speak to the Prime Minister, I raised my deep concerns about Western alienation and a need for a plan to address real and serious national unity issues. Because Western alienation is so significant a threat to Canadian unity, I don't believe we have even one day to spare. We need to get to work. On day one, I also spoke with Justin Trudeau about prorogation and parliamentary oversight. I spoke with Premiers Kenney, Moe, and Ford, and I'm arranging an in-person meeting with Premier Legault. I put forward a team for the office of the Leader of the Opposition, the party, and the national campaign. Soon, I will announce my shadow cabinet. Our Conservative team is a strong, smart, diverse group that reflects Canada. But Canadians haven't always seen themselves in our party. I'm going to change that. Because as I said in the wee hours of Monday morning, and I'm going to repeat it because it's so important, whether you're black, white, brown, or from any race or creed, whether you're LGBT or straight, whether you're an Indigenous Canadian or have joined the Canadian family 3 weeks ago or 3 generations ago, whether you're doing well or barely getting by, whether you worship on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, or not at all, you are an important part of Canada, and you have a home in the Conservative Party of Canada. It's time for many Liberal and NDP voters to socially distance themselves from parties who care more about their votes than their values.
And what about the Bloc Québécois? The truth is that the Bloc is outdated. It revives when Justin Trudeau disregards Quebecers. It will be a very different story with me. It is time for Quebec to have a seat at the decision-making table, and I will say this again. Nationalist Quebecers have an important place in the Conservative Party.
I want more Canadians to see a Conservative when they look in the mirror. Union members, small business owners, new Canadians, and more women. If you want the opportunity to work hard to provide for your family, you should be voting Conservative. If you want to stop insiders from getting ahead while you are falling back, you should be voting Conservative. If you are proud of what we produce in this country, whether it's the resources in the ground or the ideas in our heads, you should be voting Conservative. And if you believe in peace, order, and good ethical government, you should be voting Conservative.